Hi, every person. My name is Jordan Reed,
And I'm Lindsay Reed.
and this is Spell Bonding, where someone tells us something weird or scary, and that someone today is our friend Katie Goodfellow.
Hi, Katie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, well,
Now, Katie, you are our upstairs neighbor because you are from Canada.
I am from Canada.
Now,
I'm,
so where do you kind of live around the big part of Canada that starts with a T and rhymes with Toronto?
I do. So I am from Toronto or Toronto, depending on where you're
Oh.
speaking to. So yes, I am from Toronto. So
Okay, so
because we had a debate because I always say Toronto.
yes.
Like it's just Toronto. There's not Toronto. It's Toronto.
yeah, TRON space O, Toronto.
Yeah, that's probably how most people say it. I tend to over enunciate it.
Ah.
I put in the T, but it is Toronto, like Toronto. So you got it right, Lindsay.
Nice.
Hey.
Because there's this thing that we would do in, was it middle school or high school?
I think it was middle school.
Where we would do Toronto trip, where
Yeah.
the middle school would just drive to Toronto and then you'd look around for like a day and you'd be like, okay, well, we're going home.
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
Yeah.
So you guys have been up here?
Huh?
You guys have been up here then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where we're originally from, driving up to Canada was about 3 hours. So
Okay.
like when you were underage and you could drink up there, like that's
Yeah.
where you went.
Absolutely. Also, you didn't forget, so I understand.
Yeah, and I think that's funny. Now that does not mean when we were in middle school, the whole plan
No.
of the trip was to drive
Drink.
to Toronto and like be 11 and like have a beer. I don't know.
No.
I don't know what that trip is like all about these days.
You went to medieval times?
Did you? Yeah,
Yeah.
you went. Yeah, because I remember going to medieval times.
We didn't
Oh,
really
my God.
explore Canada for its beauty. We like went to dumb places.
Hmm.
Did we do the CN Tower and all of that?
Probably.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes.
you saw two Toronto things that I still haven't, and I grew up here because I've never done medieval times and I've never been up the CN Towers. So you guys are more like Torontonian experience than I am in some regards.
It's so weird too because I feel like those medieval time restaurants, like the thing people say when they like want to go there, it's like, oh well, you could eat with your hands, right? And it's like, okay, great. Great, how cool. I just like how that's the selling point, and it's not like, oh, you get to see people fight on horses. It's like, well, you can just eat chicken with your hands, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's something you absolutely can't do in your own kitchen. So
Mm-mm.
that's definitely worth the experience.
So Katie, you said you had a story about your neighborhood.
Yes. Well, so in this area, there is a park called Tabor Hill Park. And in the 1950s, they were digging it out to build the Bendale neighborhood. And while they were digging, they came across a whole pile of bodies, like
Oh.
a whole pile of them. So they stopped and they kept digging. There were
Now,
more, and there were more and more.
when you say a pile, are we talking, 10? Are we talking?
We're talking 520 bodies overall. Um,
That's a proper pile.
Was it
Yeah.
outside the medieval times? Like, is that what they do with the losers? Like, that's really strange.
Wouldn't that be an interesting tourist trap if like every time you went to medieval times, it was like actually life or death, and we were all just there eating chicken with our hands to enjoy the experience?
Right.
No, it was an Anishinaabe burial ground. Actually, Wendat. I think it was a Wendat burial ground. And so
Ah.
now there's this big hill in East Scarborough that it's the only recognized Indigenous cemetery in Canada, but it's 520 people were there. They were excavated and reburied. And so it's just this big hill. There's a big stone at the top that says what it is, but a lot of people ignore that. And in the winter, there'll still be people tobogganing down the hill. So,
Oops.
You're like, guys, maybe not that one. Maybe pick another hill.
It's interesting because, like, as settlers, we don't necessarily know the history of like the land underneath us. Like, if you go to France and you're in a castle, you're like, cool, 800 years ago, this dude did this awful thing here, and so now we have ghosts. But in North America, our ghosts are younger, or we don't understand them, and why would they want to talk to us? So I think that's really interesting.
Very
Yeah,
true.
that, and I wonder if that, like, you bring up an interesting point where it's like, over in Europe, or I guess just anywhere rather than North America, like there's more history and richness to the ghosts, and over here it's like we're dealing with like millennial ghosts, I guess, comparatively.
Yeah, my parents' house has a ghost, and it was built in like the early 1960s. But there's a ghost in the basement there. So
Weird.
What's going on in your parents' house?
So when I was growing up, like, it was in the basement, and I'd go down there and like sit on the family computer because we only had the one, and I'd be there surfing LiveJournal and like watching Winamp and everything.
Perfect. Perfect.
And I'd get this feeling off to the side in the dark area of the other basement where the couch and the TV were. I'd leave the lights off at night because I didn't need them. And I'd look over at about 11:45, midnight, every night. It would be this compulsion to look over my shoulder at the couch. And like, eventually I was like, okay, cool. I've just tricked myself into thinking there's something down here, whatever. But then one morning, we heard my mom scream in her sleep. And so we're all like, what the hell? Pardon me.
That's okay. That's okay.
So over breakfast, we sit at the table, my dad, my brother, my mom, and I, and we ask her, like, what's going on? And she tells us that she had a dream where there was a man sitting on the couch, right exactly where I look all the time, except he was too long, much, much too long, and he was completely made of shadow, and you couldn't see his face, but you could tell there was something going on there. And she said even just the presence of him was just so frightening in her sleep that it woke her up screaming.
Whoa.
And so I told my mom about this thing that I'm having, where every night before midnight I have that feeling. And so she's a little freaked out by that. My dad's there and he's looking a little bit concerned. And my dad's a skeptic. He's very much a skeptic. He loves spooking people, but he doesn't get spooked easily himself. But he said that earlier in the month, he had been sitting at the computer about that same time, and it felt like someone had pushed him.
Whoa.
And then pulled him back, and then pushed him back. And so
3 push, push, pull, push.
Push, pull, push.
Oh, man.
One too many pushes.
Yeah, that's 3 too many.
And so we're all kind of just sitting there, and my little brother's like, oh, you just mean the shadow man. Like, it's no big deal. My basement is spooked. It's haunted a little bit. I started turning the lights on. Like, I was like, okay, I still need to go down here, but like the lights are always on. And yeah, but like,
holy moly.
Yeah, my parents grew up on the street and around the corner. And so they knew the first owners of this house. They knew no one died there. They knew that nothing bad had happened to them. Like, my dad's like, yeah, I know this guy. He just died in an old folks home. But we don't know what happened on the land before we got here, right? And so if there is a spook, it might not be related to the house. It might be related to the place the house is.
Yeah.
That's very true. Well, they also say that like ghosts attach themselves to certain places. Like, I mean, we did an Estes method, or we tried to do an Estes method at Jared's. Jared here.
Welcome to our show. It's me, Jared, and this is my wife, Laura.
Jordan's parents' house, and it's an old historic home. Like, people had died in the house and stuff. Nothing. Couldn't get anything for the Estes method. So it's like, I wonder if they just attach themselves to other places. Like maybe someone had visited this house, or I don't know. It's really weird.
Like, I'm thinking about it now, and if I died in this house, like, let's hope not, but like, if I were to, I wouldn't hang out here. I'd go somewhere cooler.
Exactly. Like we think about it a lot, like, okay, why in certain areas? So we did an Estes method with my sister at a place like an hour outside of town called the Moonville Tunnel. And there was a big accident there, and like I forget how many people, but
Yeah.
people died. It's this train tunnel in the middle of nowhere, but a bunch of people died there, and a lot of people think that it's either haunted, a portal, or both.
Mm-hmm.
But we went there and did an Estes method, and we got nothing at all.
Right.
But I was like, it's weird because this place is, allegedly haunted. But then Lindsay was saying, well, sure, but like, what connection would people have to this random tunnel? You have
Yeah.
a stronger connection somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know where I would go if I were a ghost. I mean, if I got to choose, I'd probably want to haunt my husband. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
make sure that he knows I'm still around.
Yeah, I think that's weird. Now, we're both planning just to go at the same time, but if that doesn't happen, then I think I would stick around. Would you stick around? What do you think? Yeah.
Well, because I'd get lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I would need my buddy there.
Yep.
So, like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
hang out.
and I think that's like a good sign of a healthy relationship is like, I promise I'll haunt you.
Yeah, I think I think that's a good, like, I don't know why that's, regardless of how you're married or if there are vows or whatever, I think if you want to like really know, include that in your vows. Include that somewhere.
yeah. In sickness and in haunting.
Yeah, promise will haunt. So have you, at this giant, you said it's Tabor Hill?
Yeah.
Have you, like, are there stories about this place? Are there things people notice there that like happen regularly?
I'll admit, I don't think so. I don't think this is a place that we're necessarily haunted by, which again, like you'd think with 520 bodies underground that there'd be a whole pile of ghost activity. But
Oh yeah.
I just think it's interesting that in the 1950s, like we had been living in the area, like white people have been living in the area for like 200 years, and then all of a sudden we do some digging and there it is. Like,
right.
I think that in itself is spooky to not know exactly what's underneath us. But I don't know if there's been like actual ghost activity. I would love to go talk to the people in the area and see what they say. The road around it is called Indian Mound Drive, so it's not like they don't know exactly what it is, but
Yeah. That's neat. Yeah,
Mhm.
there are some like Native American mounds around us as well. I think like an hour and a half or so away.
Yeah, the
Where
serpent mounds.
yeah, it's this giant serpent.
Mhm.
And it's so neat. Now,
They made it though.
yeah.
So, like, nobody really knows why they actually made these serpent mounds to bury people, but they're really cool. Like, they're really interesting.
And there are like these smaller little, just like lumps, I guess, around the area too, where I think that those might have been burial or they might have been like ceremonial or something. But I will say, to get a good look at the serpent mound, you have to climb up this, like, it seems like they built this like metal staircase and they were like, okay, we want to make it this high. Do we want it to be safe or not safe? And they're like, let's not worry about safety. So it's pretty precarious walking up these stairs, but I mean, it's huge. It's so neat. And like, I wonder if there are things that go on at these burial mounds or if there are not. I don't know. Uh-oh, Katie froze.
Uh-oh.
So scared.
She's so scared. She doesn't even know what to say.
Am I back?
It's back. You're back. You're back.
Yay!
You're back.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. You have an Indian mound or a burial mound. I'm just going to assume it's right next to your house.
Okay.
And then your parents also have a haunted basement.
Yes.
Are there like because we don't know too much about Canada, but we've been there a few times and we like it. Lindsay has family there.
Yeah.
But is there like any like widely known Canadian lore about like I don't know, like things related to this sort of thing?
We have, I think each province has their own like cryptids. And so, but it's not like the Mothman where it's a part of our like culture, especially like in Toronto where there's people from absolutely everywhere. And so people will bring in their own stories. And so in Toronto, you can go down to Kensington Market and you can find shops that sell stuff like material components for Santeria, or they have components for pagan, like more like British style witchcraft and that sort of thing. And so I think people bring their own stories, but I know that the people who were here before us, they have a million different stories. Like there's the like skinwalkers and things like that.
Yeah.
Lots of lake monsters. Like Canada's I can always try moving us again. I've moved you like further into what is hopefully not. I'm gone again, aren't I?
No,
you're
there.
good. You're good.
Well, I'm moving us anyway. So.
Okay.
I'm like expecting you to cut out and then come back and like you're in the mound and you're like, well, I'm in the mound. I'm in the burial mound. Here we are.
But
I could do that.
You were talking about lake monsters.
Yes, but I'm not an expert in Canadian lake monsters because Lake Ontario doesn't have its own lake monster. Like we have, it's so big that I think like a lake monster would actually be able to hide efficiently. Like I think that in order for a lake monster to be like notable, it would have to be spotted, right? Like
Yeah.
I would believe that there's lake monsters in Lake Ontario, absolutely, but like I don't know them personally, unfortunately.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's a fish or like if it's your own personal buddy like Larry or like Carol or whoever else.
I know that you guys thought that some of the lake monsters were sturgeon, and we do have many, many sturgeon in Canada. And so like in terms of lake monsters that are actually just like fish that are monsters, we have plenty of those. But
Oh yeah, like I never realized how big sturgeon get, but I lived in Oregon for a little bit, and there's like a weird little sturgeon area there, and there's some that are like so old, and they're like 8 foot. They're huge.
right? That's incredible.
And they don't have scales; they have skin,
Oh,
which is also weird. It's smooth and weird.
skin like.
And, like snouts.
Yes.
They're horrible creatures. I think I'd rather meet like a dinosaur-like creature, like a Nessie, than meet a sturgeon in real life, even though sturgeon don't have teeth.
Yeah, and I guess you think like which one would be more interesting in general, and it's like, I get it. You're a sturgeon. I get it.
Yeah.
I feel like Nessie creatures are kind of like the Bronosauruses of the lake. Like they just want to eat plants. They're just hanging out.
Yes.
They're just doing their thing. Yeah.
They're very chill.
We know.
We know. Well, Katie, thank you for regaling us with tales of Canada.
I'm sorry I couldn't be a better like ambassador for the spook culture here, but
you right now, at least between the three of us, you are by far the expert, and I'm sure you will now in our books you will now be the foremost expert in Canadian folklore, probably to us. Oh no, Katie's gone again. Yeah, I think you're back. You're back. But when your screen froze, it was it looked like if you were to like have a framed photo of Katie in your house, that would be it.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so good job.
it's something like quite embarrassing, and so.
No, I was gonna say like
usually my freeze frames are like me doing like.
Yeah, it always looks really bad.
Yeah.
Well, Katie, thank you for joining us. And we wish you well in Canada. Do you have a cool sign off or like a cool catchphrase or anything?
I should have expected this. No, I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, I should have expected this.
I think that's really
a good
good.
one. Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Well, enjoy your plants, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye, Katie.
Bye.
Bye.